Now we'll look at some techniques of actually modeling within the program. I've switched over to another version of that model. And you can see we have a few construction lines in place. So one of the nice things about Advanced Steel is it can take a line that was inside of AutoCAD and turn it into an intelligent smart object. So we can do that from the Home tab on the Objects panel, and we have a command called Beam from Line. So you can select one at a time, or you can actually select multiple lines before entering into the second part of the command. So I'll take a few of these lines, hit my space bar, delete the selected objects. If I don't want to see those lines anymore, I'll say yes to that. And now it's going to ask me to pick the shape of the member that I want. And this is an extensive library, not just AISE, it's actually all the international shapes as well. You can see there's quite a bunch of different shapes. But I'm going to start with something like I-beams, and we'll pick the code we want to use. You can see in here, you can pick all the different types of codes. Maybe we want to use W shapes, and then after that we can pick the size. So again, the full AISC library is in here for you. You can also do things like positioning, making sure that it's positioned centered off of the top flange. If you wanted, it could be bottom flange, middle of the beam, wherever you want to center it off of, you can position it. You can also rotate it around if you want to give it an angle. Now there's a lot more features within here. My recommendation when you get started with the program is to spend some time just clicking through all these different menus and looking at what they have. There's quite a bit of stuff in here. The main one we'll talk about again is the positioning. So once that's completed, you can get out of the menu and you can see those beams have been laid in there. If you want to change an object, it's a slightly different properties menu than the standard AutoCAD property, but if you double-click a smart object, you get back to these Advanced Steel properties. And that's where you could pick a new size if you wanted to. You see now that fits in there. So Advanced Steel provides a complete catalog of steel sections, including bolts, gratings, and cladding sheets, not just beams. You can take a AutoCAD line and create a smart object out of it, or you can actually draw a beam from point to point. If you wanted to do something like that, we have a command for that as well. So you can pick rolled section, and you just give it a couple points where it starts and where it ends, and then it will create the section. You can also take existing line work like I showed with arcs, polylines, splines, and turn them into intelligent objects. And then looking at the properties again is very simple. You just double click on it to reopen it up. So now let's look at, once you have all your beams and everything else modeled into place, how you go ahead and add in the connections. So the connections are done from macros. There's an extensive library for those. And you're going to find those on the Extended Modeling panel or tab and under this connection bolt. You can see here we have quite a bit. We have the main categories on the outside based on what you're trying to connect and maybe a general description of how. And then inside of each one of those, so something like platform beams, then you have all the other sub-connections or exact connection types. So for us, let's look at this clip angle version. So we'll launch the command. You'll see it'll ask me to select objects. So we pick the main beam first, and I pick a secondary beam second, and hit enter. So I'm supposed to put an enter in between those two. Do that one more time. So we select the main beam, enter, the secondary beam, enter. And now it'll bring up the macro. The reason it has you do that is because you could select multiple main beams, press enter, and then select multiple secondary beams and press enter, and then do all these connections in one shot. We're just going to look at one at a time. And again, the properties dialog is very extensive, and it goes through all the different settings that you may need to place in this connection, including coping, welding. You can switch from welded to bolted. You can save your connection once you're done. So if you look down here at the library, you can actually save it and give it a name, something that will remind you what it is, and allow you to then apply this connection from your library over time and not have to keep coming through here and doing the design. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of the menu and zoom in on the connection we just made. And you can see here, if I were to rotate, that it's actually coped the beam, added the bolt holes, added all the different parts that you're going to need, plus added the actual plates and the bolts that hold the plate. So again, very automated, very quick. If you ever need to select the connection, this gray box is that, and you can always come back to it and select through that. And return back to this and make any edits that you may need.